listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh as I shift my mic the opposite way here, just to get located in my screen. Good morning. Welcome to January the 10th, 2024. We have winter storm that, or just a lot of snow, I guess, how you look at it. We had a lot of snow. If this would be midwinter, it would just be lots of snow happened last night, and it's continuing today for a period of time, but a heck of a lot of snow. So make sure if you are traveling this morning to drive according to the conditions with all of that snow that we have. We'll have more on that in the weather. We have a little bit of a sports update for you. The Wolves are in action tonight. The Five are in action on Friday and Saturday night here in Sudbury. We'll talk more about that really quickly. We're probably going to be doing a lot of a deep dive this morning as we look into the world. This Wednesday, I guess, is going to be now the theme of our Wednesdays, just because there's so much to catch up on, which is going on and around our world. Every day, I'm like, we got to share this on the show. We got to share this on the show. And it's just so much stuff. We're being bombarded left, right, center, up, down, around, everywhere with stuff. It's never been a world that has so much going on in so little time that people need to know. It's like, you need to know this. And a lot of people just have a theme in the show, and I could see why. I just want to have a show. It's like, this is going on, that's going on, this is going on, that. Now there's this, now there's that, now there's this. It's just incredible. And I know we, in our spare time, check into these things, a lot of us. Some people that don't just sit back and let CBC tell us their version of what's going on in the world. But, the rest of us who actually want to look into, it's a little harder now to dig because the government's made it a little harder for news, to catch news. Anyways, so much going on. There's the farmers protesting in Germany, which is huge. There was the journalist who was arrested yesterday just for questioning, or was the day before, just for questioning Chrystia Freeland on why they don't consider the group that shot down the plane that killed 55 Canadians and I think 30 some, or there's another number of whatever the other term is when you're not quite a Canadian citizen. Just, it's early in the morning. So anyways, I killed a lot of Canadians, and why they don't claim that group is a terrorist group. So that's all he wanted to ask her. She had a smirk on her face, and an RCMP officer just basically came behind the journalist. So that way when Chrystia Freeland was walking, the journalist bumped into him because he had nowhere else to go. The RCMP officer then arrested him for assaulting a police officer. We'll have that video in a moment in the show. There's so much going on in our legislation in our country. All these bills coming through, bills to regulate our guns even more than they're already regulated, the most regulated somewhat in the world. And for countries that still have firearms, that is, the non-communist countries. So there's that. There's the media, the crackdown on independent media, really, in my view, with Bill C-11, Bill C-18, the Online News Act. There's that. There's MAID, the Medical Assistance in Dying legislation that will now make it possible in this April, I believe, for people that are suffering from depression to have that as a medical procedure. A medical procedure, just kill you. That's a medical procedure now. It'll be offered to youth as well who are suffering from depression. That alone, even if that story alone, that legislation alone, I could talk every day, full hour on just on that and the the ethics of that alone, and why would a government be so hell-bent on passing that type of legislation? The opioid epidemic that we have in the country, the housing epidemic, the mass immigration without any future thinking of the future or planning. This country is insane, and the world seems to be going along with a lot of it, but it seems to be far left socialist type governments, and ours included in that, a socialist coalition in our government, which would seem to think these types of things. And I give my head a shake for all my socialist friends, which I have many of them, communist as well, friends. You agree with all of these things. Guns aren't safe. Guns kill people. Well, guns protect you too, right? So you never get the full conversation on this thing. Well, the government's going to make it possible to kill minors if they have depression or mental illness. Well, I don't think doctors would never recommend that to people. Like, they just right away stand up for it. And I don't understand. It's like, don't you see? All the dominoes are lined up now, and all it takes is one person to hit the end one, and they're all connect all the dots. If you connect all the dots, either it's total incompetence or it's on purpose, and it's not incompetence. So what the heck? Anyways, so Wednesdays, maybe we'll take a chance to look more deeply into our world so I can share more information on these things. Oh, wow. I can't believe it. But anyways, we got local news headlines. We got sports, local sports. We got local weather. We want to make it a local show as well. And just kind of, it's hard. I think there was someone came on yesterday and it was like, oh, this guy doesn't really delve into truth or the real truth or all this stuff. I'm like, huh? Are you kidding me? For a local show, I mean, it's it's about as much as you can get. I don't know what we're not talking about on this show ever. There's no subject that we don't really tackle. I mean, we tackled adrenochrome for crying out loud. You know what I mean? Who does that on a local radio show or a local podcast? Give me a break. So we're trying to keep it real. We're trying to look at the world the way that it is, trying to make sense of it, if you can imagine that. And even local, try and ask questions. Just there's good and bad in the world, and sometimes bad gets the better of the good, and the good's got to kind of pipe up a bit and do stuff, and push the bad back. The good thing is light. The bad is afraid of light, so you just shine light on the bad, and they're kind of like cockroaches, right? They don't like to be questioned. They don't like light. So they do things in the darkness. They do things behind closed doors. They do things with lies. They have to lie a lot. Oh, they lie for the better good of whatever it is their beliefs are. They believe they have to lie to get some really great conclusion for what they're trying to achieve. It's okay to lie as long as you can achieve this thing that we're going for. So yeah, just shine a light, ask questions. And, I don't know, that's one way. We got to fight back against what's going on. It's not right. It's not right. We have a great country. We have a great, culture. We've had a great culture. We need to stand up for the greatness that it was and maybe work on the things that weren't so good about it, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't do that. You can't say something is all bad and something is all good in this world. Anyways, in this world, you have the yin and the yang. You can't get rid of that. You can't have all good without some bad in it. So we can't expect that. You got to get as good as you can get. And it's hard for a lot of us to understand that that's the world we live in right now. That's the state of progression humankind is in, but it is what it is. Anyways, ranting this morning when I wanted to save lots of time for all the stuff we need to talk about. So we're live on CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca, streaming. If you click on the Radio Player Canada app, you can stream us. If you download the Radio Player Canada app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. Facebook Live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube Live at youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow. Mainly comment. We're going to get the comments up on the screen, read them for those on the radio or those listening, streaming. But we'll do our best to get all the comments up today. For those, you can go back, watch the shows for now, anyways, on YouTube and Facebook. And glad to have you here on the show. Let's dive right in right now with a little bit of local weather. And we'll be back with a little bit of sports, some local headlines. Let's get right into trying to look at as many things that are going on as possible today in our world. And we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. And Sudbury weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Currently it's -8 degrees. It feels like -17. Even though it's only -8, it feels like -17. Winter storm warning still here for us, Greater Sudbury and vicinity. It's continuing this morning. 5 centimeters of snow still expected. Poor visibility in areas of heavy snow, blowing snow. It's going to be tapering off this afternoon, however. So make sure to take care out there. We're going to have about 5 more centimeters of snow. It will be blowing snow as well. So driving conditions will be reduced. Quality will be reduced. So today, periods of snow and local blowing snow ending late this afternoon, then cloudy. Total amount of snow will be 5 centimeters, as we said. Wind will be gusting to 50 kilometers per hour until this afternoon. Temperatures falling to -8 this afternoon. Wind chill will feel like -16. Partly cloudy tonight. Wind will be 15 kilometers, so very mild wind. The low will be -16. The wind chill -14 this evening and -19 overnight. Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud, clearing early in the afternoon. Wind chill will feel like -20 in the morning and -13 in the afternoon. I can't believe they're still giving the UV index at this point in the year, but anyways, it's 1. -10, mainly sunny tomorrow. Sunny on Friday. I can't believe that. But anyways, -12 is your high. 70% chance of flurries on Saturday, high of -12. Sunday, mix of sun and cloud, high of -12. Monday, 30% chance of flurries, high of -10, -12 and cloudy on Tuesday. And here is a look at your weather, your satellite view over northern Ontario. As you can see, a major part of that storm has already passed us and is mainly in Ottawa as of 4 a.m., as of 3 hours ago. Anyways, it's probably still in around Ottawa and moving into Quebec. But we got the most of it. Now we just have 5 more centimeters of snow from this system. That's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Make sure to stay safe out there today, guys. We'll be back with a little bit of sports and your comments, news headlines, and a deep dive into our world. What is the world we live in this today? Right after this. All right, Sudbury Sports brought to you by sudburysports.ca. Sudbury Wolves in action tonight against the Mississauga Steelheads. They're 3rd in the division, nipping at their heels, only 3 points behind them. And it's neck and neck and neck. Sudbury's first, Brantford, Mississauga, all there vying for the top spot in the Central Division. Anyways, it's going to be an important game. Get out, support them. If you can shovel yourself out. Free parking tonight, at least, at the Sudbury Arena. Let's get out and support them. Wednesdays don't usually have as much of a turnout. So Fridays and Saturdays, obviously, have the biggest turnout. So get out and support your Sudbury Wolves. It's going to be a great game. The last 2 games, defeating the the Kitchener Rangers and the Brantford Bulldogs, both 7-5, 7-4, respectively. And 2 top teams there. So here's another top team. So it'll be a wonderful game to get out and support. And the Sudbury 5 also will be in action this Friday. So the Underground will be hosting, the 5 returns to the Underground. They're going to be hosting a doubleheader this weekend with the London Lightning Friday and the Pharaohs here on Saturday. Both games are set for a 7 p.m. tip-off, and it's proudly sponsored by Pure Country. Single game tickets are on sale now. In person at the Sudbury Arena box office, online at greatersudbury.ca/tickets. Kids 10 and under receive admission for only $10 all season long. For more information, visit the5.ca. That's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by sudburysports.ca. We'll be back with your comments, local headlines, and a deep dive today into the world that we live in right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we are back. Well, let's just come back here. Here we go. Here we are. So school buses are canceled today. I guess I should have mentioned that right off the hop. In Sudbury, due to the weather. So school buses are indeed canceled. I guess that's a weather-related headline and just a headline in general. Yeah, so with that, let's see who's on this morning. We have quite a few of you jumping on early. And first to the Facebook party is Judy. Good morning, Judy. Good morning, Marianne from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. And thank you very much for that. Jerome, good morning. Yeah, so glad you made it as well. Here it is. So you sent me a video from our good friend Trevor. And I wanted to play that this morning, so it's hard to get. So, and even when you send me messages on Messenger, your account especially, I can see it for a second, and then it says, "Oh, it's not available anymore." It's weird. And then many times last night, I was trying to get videos, and it says they're not there anymore. Sorry, it's incredible. It's more things are going on with social media. It just keeps getting. They keep chipping away with more and more censorship, harder and harder to get the videos and the stories that we want to share. Anyways, it is what it is. Okay. So Marianne says we got snow, which followed by lots of rain and snow. Snow's gone. Oh no, really? In Barrie. That's incredible. Kind of messy too. Vin, morning. Thanks for being with us. Marianne says, yes, go Germany for sure. We'll have more on that a little bit later. Good morning. A mean person can never be happy because they're negatively consumed, or their negativity consumes them. Respond intelligently, even to unintelligent treatment. 100%. That's my theme. That's the theme now that I have that I need to work on is composure and grace under pressure. To be able to hold your own and not get emotionally, don't buy into the emotional responses that one could have, be triggered, these types of things. Oh, and there you are, Trevor. Much appreciated that you're being on. There was a video that you had on your Facebook about the Fox News on what's going on in Florida. I wanted to share that this morning. It was shared to me from Jerome. Anyways, hopefully we can get to the bottom of that and I can play it possibly tomorrow when I figure out how I can play it on the show. Chrystia Freeland is the Wicked Witch of the WEF. Bottom line, pay attention. Yes, we'll have more on that as well. What happened yesterday with the reporter being arrested just for asking her a question. Well, they say it was because he assaulted a police officer, which he didn't. He bumped into him because a police officer got in his way from questioning Chrystia Freeland as she was walking. Good morning, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. That's Denise. Good morning, Denise. Marianne also says, welcome to the police. Don't take their oath seriously and protect the people, but work for the crown. Well, yes. Well, this again would be Chrystia Freeland's entourage police, right? So they have a specific, focus on protecting her, I guess, but they should have more of a focus on upholding the law, I would think, other than upholding some would call thugs. Okay. Let's see here. Monique, Grand Rising, everyone. Much appreciated. Monique, thanks for being with us. Vin says, the irony of politicians not allowing Rebel News into interviews, but on social media. I get flagged for the Menzies story because you can't share news in Canada. Total hypocrisy. A step toward communism, for sure. Many, many, many Canadians want to be communist. They don't understand it, but they want to be it. It's like kids who say, I don't like that, or even some adults say that. You say, hey, you want to try this? Oh, I don't like it. Have you ever tried it before? No, I just don't like it. Like that type of thinking, that makes me want to go to university for 10 years and just understand what makes someone think like that and act like that. I don't understand. People make decisions mainly on just a thought or a feeling that they're convicted on. No education on it whatsoever. Or they'll just listen to someone else. Well, my friend said they didn't like it, so I'm not going to like it. Whatever. You know what I mean? What do we base decisions on? What do we base what we believe on? People kill people. It's like saying, my spoon makes me fat. Interesting, Denise. Belinda, Trudeau's regime has no love for Canadians. Immigrants are the exception, for sure. More love for new Canadians, for sure, than the ones who have been here for a while. I could see that. I think all people are great. I think we should love all people. Even Chrystia Freeland. I love Chrystia Freeland. I don't like her. I don't like what she does, but I love her. I hope the best for her. Pray for her, if you will. Hope that she somehow can look at what she is doing and that she will be accountable one day for what she's doing. And anyone who's doing something that's going to affect even one person negatively, you don't get away with it. I'm just letting you know that. You will never get away with it. You will eventually, you will be held accountable. Maybe not in this life. You will be held accountable. I know that for a fact. So it's very important to recognize it now and change for your betterment, because you will be the one very, very negatively impacted in a sad way for the things you're doing, because it's like building up a bunch of it's like one by one building up the things that are eventually going to harm you. I don't know. I can't come up with an analogy right now. But anyways, everything we do will come back. It's kind of like karma, but more specific than that. So Marianne, you got insanity for sure. Okay, going to just get some of the comments up here so we can continue on this morning. There's much to cover, and our time is already getting away with us. There's so much to cover this morning. I don't know where to start. We got to start somewhere, though. Let's start with the farmers in Germany. And you say, well, you wanted to take a deep dive into the world, but how does it affect Canada? Well, yeah, it's happening in Canada too. The story that we're going to be looking at by our good friend Harrison Faulkner. Good morning, Maurice. Thanks for being with us. Harrison Faulkner will be covering a little bit of what's been going on in Germany as of late, just very recently, where farmers are pushing back because the government are trying to push farmers out of business. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine trying a government is trying to push farmers out of not only their livelihood, but making the food you eat? Wow. Who would have thought we would have seen that in our lifetime? Governments making a war with farmers who make the food everyone eats. I thought they were so, focused on there's too many people in the world and you have to depopulate because there's not enough land to grow the food we need. Yet they're trying to get rid of the very farmers that are already making the food for the people that are living here now. So I don't understand it, right? Either it's on purpose or it's incompetence. And it's not incompetence in my view. Good morning, all. Liette, thanks for joining us. So you have the farmers in Germany, thankfully taking a page from what we did here in Canada for a period of time with the truckers standing up. And that's a bad word. A lot of people listening probably on their drive to work, just tuning in for the first time saying, I can't believe this radio host even said the word truckers. That's incredible. Yeah, well, the government was overreaching their powers and continued to do that in order to stop some people from just saying, hey, enough's enough already. We've had enough. You're good. The country's like 90% taking the solution that you mandated. So let's get on with our lives now. Thank you very much. But they kept digging in their heels. What were they expecting? 100%? Anyways, good morning. Monique, thanks for being with us. Let's just get on here. We'll get all the comments still up as we check in with Harrison on this situation going on in Germany at the moment. So many things up on the screen. But we'll have to, I don't know what just happened with our good buddy. Oh, there he is. Our good buddy is right here. We'll be back after Harrison delves a little bit into the whole trucker situation in Germany.
Politicians who are trying to get rid of us.
And if you think that the Germans are upset that they're now stuck in traffic due to these major nationwide farmers' protests, think again. Here's what one German had to say when asked by reporters if he was upset that he's now stuck in traffic. Translated from the reporter, since the traffic lights coalition came on, Germany has been going down the drain. When politicians are so incompetent, you're scratching your head. The equation here is so simple and so basic, even Justin Trudeau and Olaf Scholz can understand it. No farmers, no food. If you force German farmers out of business by cutting their tax subsidies, well, the Germans go hungry. Now, before we get into the politics driving all of this anger and frustration at German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, we first have to go into the details of what this measure against farmers is and why it's happening right now. Germany is currently led by a three-party coalition with Olaf Scholz sitting at the top of the system as chancellor, representing the Socialist Party, backed up by the Greens and the Liberal Free Democratic Party. This coalition in Germany is known as the Traffic Light Coalition, and in December, the German government proposed their sample 2024 budget. In it, they tried to repurpose over 60 billion euros of pandemic emergency debt in order to achieve their climate goals. They were going to try to take pandemic spending and repurpose that into achieving climate change targets. The German Supreme Court struck that down as unconstitutional, and in turn, the German government decided to do what it appears several other European countries are now trying to do: attack the farmers. Their next decision in early December was to completely remove the tax subsidy on farmers operating diesel tractors. Now that is what has sparked major nationwide protests. For weeks, German farmers have been protesting those new measures, prompting last week the German government to scale down their restrictions and instead to gradually phase out the subsidy elimination. Instead of cutting the tax break for German farmers who are already struggling immediately, they have decided to cut it back by 40% this year, 30% the next year, and 30% by 2026. So instead of an immediate killing of the industry, they're going to do a death by 1,000 cuts style. They're not going to starve the German public immediately, they're just going to gradually starve the German public. But if the German government thought that their decision to scale down their subsidy elimination program was going to ease tensions in the country, well, they would be mistaken, because today the protests only ramped up, with plans for weeks of continuous protests throughout Germany. Now, these protests in Germany almost mirror exactly what we saw in the Netherlands last year. In 2019, the Dutch Prime Minister at the time, Mark Rutte, fixed his sights on Dutch farmers as a way to solve the so-called climate crisis. The Dutch plan was to force Dutch farmers to accept nitrogen emissions reduction targets on their farms or face the government seizure of their farms. That's right, if you didn't abide by the Dutch government's authoritarian emissions reduction targets on your farm, well, the government would just take it from you. I'm pretty sure they tried that in China and the Soviet Union. What came from that was major political upheaval in the Netherlands. Protests for years dominated that country's political scene, resulting last year in major political success for farmers' political parties. And it all culminated at the end of last year with Dutch voters rejecting the WEF-backed Mark Rutte coalition and instead voting in massive numbers for populist Geert Wilders. And the same situation appears to be happening in Germany right now. According to German public broadcaster DW, at the beginning of December, Olaf Scholz hit record low popularity numbers. Germany's ruling Social Democrats are in a bad way, according to DW. The latest polling shows how turned off voters are by the center-left and the man it chose to run the country. If general elections were held now, the party of Chancellor Olaf Scholz would only receive 14% of the vote. That is another 2% lower than last month's figures and the lowest since June 2021. And at the same time as Olaf Scholz is currently battling record low popularity in the German polls, the leader of his Socialist Party is trying to ban the German Conservative Party, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland. They're trying to ban a party which is polling higher than their own party, which is currently in charge. Think about that for a minute. If you wanted to maybe fan the flames in Germany and really anger some people who are already quite upset with you, how about you ban the party that they're trying to vote for? According to this Reuters article from mid-December, Germany's AfD hits record high in poll after budget chaos. Support for Germany's far-right Alternative for Germany hit an all-time high of 23% in a poll on Tuesday as the party continued to benefit from the fallout of a budget crisis. According to DW, in current polls ahead of the 2024 state elections in Brandenburg, Saxony, and Thuringia, the AfD is ahead everywhere with ratings of well over 30%. Saskia Esken, the leader of the SPD party, the party that Olaf Scholz belongs to, said, according to Yahoo News, "It is important that we talk about banning the AfD and that voters are shaken up." Since the German government has decided to specifically target German farmers operating diesel tractors, which is basically all of them, you have to ask the question, what do they really want? Do they expect German farmers to adopt electric tractors? Well, we did some basic research here, and it turns out that actually electric tractors might be worse for the environment than diesel tractors. Who could have possibly seen this coming? According to the Washington Policy Center, a Washington state-based think tank, with regular maintenance, a modern farm tractor has a working life measured in decades, reducing waste and environmental impact. In contrast, electric tractors will regularly require replacement of a complete set of acid and lead-based batteries, creating an environmental impact of its own. Furthermore, electric tractors currently available for purchase do not meet the horsepower needs of commercial farming and ranching. Apparently, a 2021 Honda Civic has more horsepower than any of the currently available electric tractors for purchase. And this is where it gets really important. The Washington Policy Center found that lawmakers who champion electric tractor legislation are championing increased food production costs. Of course, if this wildly unpopular plan to remove subsidies for German farmers goes through, food costs for Germans will skyrocket. So why not push forward a climate policy to punish farmers and spike the price of food in their country when Germans are already struggling with out-of-control cost of living? Very similar to what's happening in Canada right now. According to the Clean Energy Wire, the number of households paying more than 10% of their income on energy had jumped from 26% to 43% between March 2022 and June 2023, according to a report from the country's expert council for consumer affairs. In Germany, a large majority of citizens say they fear that rising living costs will erode their standard of living, fueling fears of social decline. So where does Canada come into all of this? Well, just like in the Netherlands, Canada also, for a time, considered imposing fertilizer emissions reduction targets on Canadian farmers. In the first of 3 exclusive reports titled The Fertilizer Files, my colleague at True North, Cosmin Georgia, uncovered a plan from Agriculture Canada to impose a regulatory backstop on farmers should they not voluntarily accept fertilizer emissions reduction targets. And in part 3 of the Fertilizer Files, through access to information requests, True North uncovered emails from Fertilizer Canada, an advocacy group, to the federal government. According to the reporting, A copy of a speech delivered by Agriculture Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau that same year as part of a sustainable agriculture webinar with European counterparts went even further, describing Canada's measures as, quote, very closely aligned with the fertilizer reduction target in the EU's farm to fork strategy. These attacks on farmers are taking place everywhere. It's not just happening in the Netherlands, and it's not just happening in Germany. The plans are being made for the same thing to happen here in Canada. And you have to ask yourself, why are these governments, who are so committed to solving the so-called climate change crisis, attacking the farmers? Well, just like the Germans are showing us, an attack on farmers is an attack on everyone. And if you don't want to face famine or starvation, now is a pretty good time to start fighting back. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us today on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, so Harrison Faulkner lays it out pretty easily for everybody. Do you notice any similarities here between Germany and Canada? So you have a coalition of a socialist coalition of government. So they have three parties. We could have had a three-party coalition here with Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, and the Green Party, whoever their leader is at any given time. They have co-leaders now. I'm not sure. They have 2 seats in the House, so maybe that's why they're not part of the coalition. There are only 2 votes. Anyways, so yeah, it's all the left getting together saying, I know you didn't vote for all these parties, but we're all going to make it a majority and run the country illegally, really, because you didn't vote for them, but they're a coalition. Okay. You know, it's almost like handing it over, saying, Justin Trudeau saying, Pierre Poilievre, you know what? Why don't we run the country together? Or better that you just run it when everyone voted for him. It's almost the same. Everyone would be going, we voted for you. Why are you giving him the power? You know what I mean? But it's easier when their ideologies are aligned, right? So they can get together and join and make one big party, even though no one voted for them. Like that should make Canadians go, what the heck is going on here? But they don't, because we're docile. And we just we actually love it. We actually protect it. Most people protect those types of things and say, well, there should be nothing wrong with it. Are you racist? Yeah, I'm racist because people don't abide by the law. Anyways, no, I'm not racist. And, my university, though, tells me just because I said that, it means I am. So I guess I am. I don't know. I don't know. It's a crazy world we live in, right? And then also they're trying to take the party, their conservative party, they're trying to make it illegal. Does that sound familiar? They're trying to make the Conservative Party illegal to run, which they're doing to Donald Trump in the United States. State by state, they're trying to make it illegal. And they give a reason, and a lot of people get, it makes sense. What I saw on CNN, because that's all I watch, or CBC, that makes sense because that's all I heard. That's all I want to hear. It makes sense. You got to stop someone like that from running. You have to stop someone from running in a democratic country. Does that sound familiar to you? Jailing your opponents in the political arena? Where have you heard things like that before in the past? Have you ever heard that in Canada before? Someone who's in power says, I don't like you. Give a reason. Maybe, they said something you don't agree with or whatever. Let's put them in jail. I'm the leader of the country and I have power over all of the legal system and the police and whatever. I have all the power. I have all the resources. And I can actually put you in jail so you cannot take my seat. It's all about power. All about power. It's not about democracy. They always say, it's a threat to our democracy. And they'll usually use the very thing they're destroying to say it back to you, For an example of this, Justin Trudeau is very used to saying the opposite. He calls his opponents the very thing he's doing. So that way then when they call him out on it, I already called you that first, even though he's the one doing it. Right? So that's a tactic. It's a political, military, if you will, tactic to destroy your enemy. If it's in the political realm, if it's in whatever realm, it's a tactic. Call you the thing first So that way, when you call it to them, it's just you're saying, oh, yeah, you are too. But no, I'm not, but you are. But you're calling me that. It's interesting. So anyways, I have a little rant here. He sums it up. How did Trudeau do in 2024? He wants to run again in 2025. Will he run with Jagmeet Singh as his, like they do in the United States, as his running partner? Maybe it'll be the Liberal NDP party. Will they run again and try to co-run the country together? They've already been doing it. We'll have to see if that's what they're going to do. I don't know. And unless the voting machines are rigged, which we know doesn't happen, right? We can expect that they're going to be voted out this next election. But anyways, this is a really great rant on Justin Trudeau. And from Jonathan Harvey, if you've ever heard of him. Be back right after this.
That he will be running for Prime Minister again in 2025. In fact, here's 30 seconds directly from the horse's mouth telling Canadians why he wants to run again.
See, people ask me, why do I want to run in the next election? It's because I'm fighting for the middle class. I'm fighting for reconciliation. I'm fighting for climate change. I'm fighting to build an economy that works for all Canadians. I'm running because now is not the time to stop fighting for progress.
There's more.
But the more interesting question to me is, why does Pierre Poilievre want this job? To import far-right populist politics to Canada? To call people's homes shacks and use homeless people as props? To ramp up bullying on 2SL LGBTQI+ kids as a wedge for politics? To cut the programs Canadians rely on, like dental care and child care? I don't think he knows the answer to that question, and that's what makes him so reckless.
Despite the most recent polls showing that 69% of Canadians think Trudeau should step down and let the Liberal Party select a new leader, he is going to power through, because now is not the time to stop fighting for progress. That being said, polls change, right? But you know what doesn't change? History. So let's review Trudeau's track record directly with his little campaign pep talk. To start with, Trudeau says he's fighting for the middle class. Now, the middle class is often defined by earnings, falling between 75% and 200% of the median household income after tax. In Canada, that means anyone who earns between $53,000 and $106,000. Now, by this metric, the size of the middle class remains relatively unchanged. But here's where things go sideways for Trudeau and the middle class. Middle class earnings are no longer enough money to get by, especially if you live in a city like Toronto. In fact, a recent survey by Polaris Strategic Insights states that only 31% of Canadians feel optimistic about the future of the middle class, a sharp decline from the 53% in 2020 and the lowest level ever recorded by Polaris. 43% in the middle class report living paycheck to paycheck with no savings, while 15% are falling behind on their monthly expenses. In fact, 47% of young Canadians and 41% of middle-aged adults are worried about paying their housing costs, whether rent or the mortgage, in the next month. So now only 52% of adults believe their kids can ever reach the middle class. And let me remind you, we're talking the middle class. Remember when the dream was to be rich? Now it's just to survive in Trudeau's Canada. So when he says he's working for the middle class, a more accurate statement would be that he's working against the middle class. Next on the list, Trudeau is fighting for truth and reconciliation. Okay, well, here's some truth. A report published just last month by the Yellowhead Institute, an Indigenous-led council, said that Canada has been so slow to carry out recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that the advisory board has decided to stop publishing an annual report tracking its progress. According to the council, at first, the project invoked hope and determination. If only the Canadian public knew about their government's lack of action, we believed perhaps there would be change. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission issued 94 calls to action in its 2015 report, yet the Yellowhead Institute points out that only 13 recommendations are complete. In fact, the report found that no calls to action were completed over the course of the entire 2023 calendar year, and that if Canada continues at this pace, it will not finish the work until 2081. Not to mention, if Trudeau really cared, why don't the Indigenous have clean drinking water yet? In 2015, Justin Trudeau promised that if elected, he would end boil water advisories in First Nation communities within 5 years. Trudeau said, "A Canadian government led by me will address this as a top priority because it's not right in a country like Canada. This has gone on far too long." However, Trudeau's deadline has come and gone, and this still remains a problem for their community 9 years later. so it was never made a priority. What he's really saying here is that he'll virtue signal for reconciliation while doing nothing to actually help their community. Oh, and let's not forget, the year he was so kind as to give them the Truth and Reconciliation Day, he went skiing in Tofino. Next on the list, he is fighting for climate change. You know what? This is one place I need to give Trudeau a little credit. He has really bought into this net zero initiative, so much so that he will have flown over 1 million kilometers on his jumbo jet during his tenure as Prime Minister to spread the good word. He's also added a frivolous carbon tax to Canada in an effort to curb this climate crisis. Well, not for those heating their homes in Atlantic Canada. Their votes matter more than the climate. But the rest of us, we have to pay this carbon tax because it saves the environment. So now our gas costs more, heating our homes costs more, groceries, retail goods, and services all cost more, so we can save the world. Oh, wait, none of this tax actually goes to save the environment. In fact, the Trudeau government claims that this money goes back into the pockets of Canadians, except according to his very own Parliamentary Budget Office, it will cost the average Canadian $700 more this year, and it won't stop there, because this tax will more than double in the years to come. Good thing Trudeau is out there fighting for climate change, though, right? Now this is a fun one. Trudeau says he's fighting to build an economy that works for all Canadians. What a joke. Since Trudeau took office, the cost of homes has pretty well doubled. The cost of rent has more than doubled. More homes are being purchased by corporations than ever before. 66% of young Canadians think they will never own a home. 72% think home ownership is only for the rich. Perhaps this is because now it takes an average of 25 years to save for a down payment. Groceries have gone up 277%. Inflation, according to our CPI, has increased 24.9%. The average cost of living, according to Stats Canada, has gone up nearly 50%, closing in on $90,000 per year per household. As of October 2023, Canadian households hold the highest level of debt among all G7 nations. Now, some people might argue that this isn't Trudeau's fault. However, I would disagree. And here's why. For starters, Trudeau printed hundreds of billions of dollars, which was dispersed through the process of quantitative easing. This not only drove inflation and sparked a massive uptick in corporate home ownership, it is also why our interest rates went through the roof, a mechanism applied to quell the inflation he created to drive down demand. However, his immigration policies are making this an impossible feat. In addition, Justin Trudeau is responsible for spending more money per citizen than any other prime minister in history by a landslide. And yes, this is adjusted for inflation. For example, at the height of the Second World War, per-person spending, adjusted for inflation, reached $7,582 before dropping back down significantly in the post-war years. Justin Trudeau spent over $17,000 per person during the pandemic. But wait, he had already set the record in 2018 at over $9,000 per person when times were good. In fact, according to a Scotiabank report, Trudeau's above and beyond standard government spending is directly responsible for 2% of our current interest rate hikes. I mean, this is wild. The only people who have done well through this entire disaster is the public sector, which he has increased by 40% since 2015. I am not kidding. We have seen our federal public service increase from 257,000 people to 357,000 people since he got into office. And to do what? Tell me how this has improved the lives of Canadians in any way. Perhaps this is what led him to not only more than double our national debt, but take balancing the budget by 2028 and extend that into the unknown oblivion, while hundreds of billions in extra government spending continue to pile up.
And there's more, and he will continue. And so for more, you can visit Jonathan Harvey on Facebook, and you can check out his, he does such a good job of sharing all the facts, basically. On whatever he's ranting about. So, he's got way more time than I do, and he's probably monetized to some degree as well, able to do that. We were pretty much voluntary. And with that, I made a new ticker. I'll get it up here for anybody who is able to do this, and it's not everybody who can, but because we do have costs associated with the show, and I know some of you were so kind as to e-transfer us in the past. We are so grateful for that, and I don't even know how much I can thank you for doing that. If you are able to do that, and I feel terrible even asking to be able to do that, but I only want to just cover the about $300 and some dollars per month that we have for expenses for the show. It's all volunteer. I don't get paid. There's no sponsors. There's no nothing. It's on a volunteer-run local radio station. It's on, just done from my work office and my studio, and where I stay for my office. Anyways, so it's all, yeah. I just if it's possible. Anyways, So I made a ticker so that way I don't have to say this anymore. I'll put it up once in a while to email sudburynews@gmail.com. So I'm sure I'm turning a few shades of red as I'm even saying this, but thank you very much for that. So now, so like we already see how this government
2 years after Iran.
pretty much is on their way to a communist type of government. They're very socialist. There's no doubt about it. On our way to communist. You can see so here's the reporter from Rebel News trying to question Chrystia Freeland on why they're at this memorial service for this jet that went down from a group in Iran that shot it down. Why don't they label them a terrorist organization? It's a pretty simple question if you asked me. This is coming from Street Politics Canada, explaining it and showing a little bit of the video of where he was actually arrested for just asking her a question. Anyways, we'll be back right after this.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps shot down Flight PS-752, brutally killing 176 passengers and crew. Canada is still denying justice to grieving families by refusing to designate the IRGC as a terrorist entity. And just as Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland was questioned about her government's refusal to label Iran's IRGC a terrorist group, a chilling scene unfolded. Rebel News journalist David Menzies was arrested for simply asking why the IRGC can freely recruit and fundraise in Canada. This crackdown on press freedom casts a dark cloud over Canada's PS-752 memorials. While Trudeau and his government offer hollow words, their inaction in the face of terror speaks volumes. The arrest of a journalist for questioning this double standard makes the hypocrisy impossible to ignore. When will Canada take real action against state-sponsored terror and finally provide closure to the victims' families? Welcome back to Street Politics Canada. 2 years after Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps callously shot down Flight PS-752, Trudeau's government has still not recognized it as a terrorist organization. And just as Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland was leaving after the ceremony commemorating the victims, Rebel News journalist David Menzies was brutally arrested for simply asking why the IRGC can freely recruit and fundraise in Canada.
Freeland, how come the IRGC is not a terrorist group? Why is your government supporting Islamo-Nationalism? What? What are you doing?
You're under arrest for assault. Why are you pushing me? You're under arrest for assault. You're under arrest for assault. Police, you're under arrest for assault. How am I under arrest? You bumped into me. You pushed into me. I was just scrubbing. I got my credentials here and you just bumped into me. So excuse me. Police, you're under arrest.
What is your name and your badge? What is your name and your badge? You've been told you're under arrest. Why am I under arrest? He blocked my way. What? I was just scrumming Chrystia Freeland.
I'm a police officer. You're under arrest.
What is your name and your badge number?
Assaulting a police officer.
How is that possible?
Okay, because
you assaulted me 3 years ago when blackface.
The arrest happened as Menzies was physically blocked by an unnamed plainclothes officer, apparently with the RCMP. The man deliberately walked into David and stood in his way to prevent him from asking questions. Video shows the situation escalating, with Menzies surrounded by officers then taken away in a police car. Menzies asked the arresting officer twice for his name and badge number, but didn't get an answer. He obviously knew what they were doing was wrong. Police are supposed to be there to uphold the law and public safety, not to prevent politicians from being asked questions by journalists who the government will not permit to ask questions in official settings. The entire incident happened as Freeland swiftly moved away from the scene, ignoring the situation entirely. This recent arrest marks the second time journalist David Menzies has faced obstruction for trying to question the Trudeau government.
So there you have it. So the government doesn't answer questions from journalists if they don't know the answers predetermined by, I guess, their speechwriters or whatever, in very controlled settings where they call the press conference. They will tell you what they want to say, and they will not allow reporters to ask them questions if they're not deemed official or whatever, or bona fide in their eyes journalists that they want to answer questions to. That's what all this is about. All this regulation of the media. You're going to get a stamp of approval. Government approved media. and we will not answer any questions from anyone who's not government approved. So that tells you what kind of a country is that as well. Where do we see that? What other countries does that take place, where they jail their opponents? They don't answer questions from the media. They go and take land from their farmers or make it impossible for them to do what they're doing. Make it impossible for citizens to do what they're doing. And inflation, hyperinflation. What are these signs of? Where have we seen these things in the past in history in countries? So if that's what's happening now, where is the future going to lead us? And it's to this point, we'll have to keep that question for tomorrow, because that's the end of the show. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for sticking with us. I appreciate you. Without you, this show would not be here. You are part of the show. You make this show with your comments and suggestions and the views that you have on the news. It makes the show what it is, and that's the idea of this show. It's to basically get together and try and unpack the world we live in, whether it's local, it's regional, it's abroad. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU, everyone, and we'll see you, God willing, same time, same place, tomorrow on Thursday. Go Wolves, go. Get out and support them tonight. Go see them down at the Sudbury Arena. Free parking. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.